Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away?
And welcome everybody back to Off Day with Ballpark Nation. Andy is back. We are at 100%. Andy, we are.
I don't think anybody else is. I did not pull my hamstring this weekend. I did not break an elbow this weekend. I did not sprain my thumb kicking my ass. None of those things happened to me. So John Singleton's back.
I guess I woke up with I've committed the biggest thing, one of the biggest things you can do wrong as a teacher during the summer is I have completely fucked my sleep schedule. I'm staying up until 1:30 in the morning. I'm watching movies, and then it's time to get up and do the show, and so I feel terrible.
Well,
I started watching Shark Week again last night because that's on, and I've started rooting for. They've got one guy whose only job on the show, Andy, is to just create some stupid device to almost get eaten by a shark, and I'm ready for him to get eaten by the shark.
This is how I've said it before. It's how I feel about the Jurassic Park movies. You start rooting for the dinosaurs really early. That means the humans aren't worth saving.
Yeah. The difference, though, is I can always find a reason to save Scarlett Johansson, and this is a real human I want to get eaten on television.
That's fair.
Yeah. Let's talk a little Astros, though. We'll start out.
Probably aren't helping your sleep patterns at all. First of all, we have this nonsense of playing West Coast baseball games this past weekend, which is Seattle doesn't even bother to do the 8:30 or 6:30 start like the Angels do. Seattle pushes it all the way to 9:10, 7:10 in their time, and it's a struggle to stay up and watch bad baseball.
It's a real struggle to do it, and it has been bad baseball. Which is one of the things that's been frustrating is it's been bad baseball, but it's actually been not as bad as I think the natural impression of the baseball has been. The Astros, let's talk about Saturday's game first. Honestly, should have won the game. They ended up outplaying Seattle and then kind of gave the game away doing some stupid things. So
I don't know.
Well, in like I talked about it a little bit yesterday, and I wanted your take on it because I don't like the idea of Josh Hader 2 innings in a row, and I don't like the idea of Josh Hader 2 innings in a row when one of those innings is extra innings with the built-in stupid runner because you're using pitches. You're using the arm of your best reliever more than you have to in a situation that's designed to be a 50-50 shot, whether you score or not. As we saw in that game, Andy, the Astros actually scored in the 10th inning with the bottom of their lineup up because they knew the guys couldn't hit. So what do? They bunted a guy over and hit a sac fly. And then the top of the 11th, well, that's your hitters. So you're not going to do any of that stuff. You're going to hope to get, a base hit, and then you end up down and you end up scoring. So I think that he has to be aware. Espada needs to start being aware of just how much they're using Josh Hader.
And I'm sure he has every data sheet. I mean, I know he does. I know he has every bit of analytics and every matchup and every usage pattern, all of that information available to him at his fingertips. I think that there are some managers that we have had that have run this team that combine this use of analytics with kind of a gut feel to do things. I don't know that Joe Espada has that kind of touch yet. I'm not saying he couldn't get there, but I think Dusty Baker, for all the people that watch our show, all the people who are Astros fans who hated Dusty Baker by the end of his run for reasons I still don't understand, because he's the same manager going out as he was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
You think you'd kind of just accept who he was. I just don't know. Espada has that information and doesn't seem to want to use it sometimes. And it leads to things like certain relievers not pitching for 7-8 days at a time, but Hader getting used in non-leverage situations because I don't know who else to put in.
Yeah.
I understand why Abreu pitched the Sunday game because they literally didn't have any other pitchers left, and that happens when your starters go 2 1/3 and then 4 innings in 2 consecutive games. But Hader to me is one of those guys that's when there is a win to be had, he's the guy you want, and you want him available for as many of those opportunities as you can. And pitching him the way Espada does sometimes means that he's not available for every possible win that you can get. And it's a fine line. I think, everybody talks about needing another starter and needing some offensive help. Those are certainly true. They've got to find a seventh inning guy that's reliable because they just haven't yet. And it doesn't look like it's going to be Hector Neris.
No, and I don't know. I feel like Sousa has actually probably done enough to earn that job. I think Brad King has probably done enough to earn that job. Okert seems to have fallen out of favor, though I don't quite know why. His numbers are just as good as they've been at the beginning of the season.
But we still get a healthy diet of Caleb Ort, who has not been good this season.
Until yesterday. Then what?
Well, you know what? If I can pitch with a 9-run lead, I
hold on. That's not fair because he came in when the game was tied and held the game.
Oh, we got to hold the dumbest stat ever.
Well, but still, I mean, he did give you an inning in the third. I mean,
he has his moments, but he is a career 5 ERA guy. He's got a 5 ERA this season. He is who he is. He had. And it's one of the things that Astros fans do, and I think the Astros do to some extent, is that you hope lightning's going to hit twice with the same guy. And sometimes you get a good season out of a Taylor Scott or a Caleb Ort, and your money's in the bank at that point. And going back to that well, although you hope it's going to last 2 years, you've got to have a plan for when it's not.
Yeah, I'm not your Caleb Orb stan. I just like to – when we're talking about this stuff, give credit when credit is due. He did actually probably the Astros don't win the game yesterday. If him and I guess Okert was one of the other first ones out of the pen, don't hold the line where it was, particularly with how taxed that bullpen really was. The Neris thing is weird to me because I do think the Seattle series is us seeing what Hector Neris is. The Rangers, I think a lot of people were buoyed by memories of 2022 because that's very on brand for our fan base. And then the Rangers offense isn't good. And so they took a lot from that Rangers game and said, look at that. Hector Neris is back. I think what we saw in Seattle is what Hector Neris 2025 is.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem with him being on the roster and him being a piece that's used in spots, but he can't be a guy that you see 3 days, 4 days a week in situations where you need holds or you need to protect the lead. He's just not that guy anymore.
Yeah. And, that's part of the issue. I do think
he can offer all the free beer in Houston he'll ever want. That I have no problem with.
Now, is the possible seventh inning guy one of these starters right now that won't be a starter soon? Because we did get really good news out of Corpus Christi from both Christian Javier and Spaghetti in the sense that not only did they dominate, but they both pitched 3 innings and went over, I think, about 50 pitches for their first rehab start, which is a pretty good number in my opinion.
Yeah. Of course, there's going to be some guys moving to the bullpen. You've got a couple of issues in your rotation. Hunter Brown's not going anywhere provided he doesn't get injured, which I guess is a thing that we do every game this year. So he's on the list at some point.
Knock on wood.
Fromber's not going anywhere, nor should he even be in this conversation. Walter has been as good as you could possibly hope a guy in that situation is going to be. And you've gotten competitive starts out of Colton Gordon most of the time he's gone out. He is kind of who you'd think he is. Lance McCullers Jr. is the big issue. So one of those guys is going to come in and replace him. He's not a guy that I think helps the bullpen at all because he can't throw strikes, and that's a problem. But you're going to see guys like Ryan Gusto, and you've already seen him pitching out of the bullpen now, who are going to bolster that bullpen. And I'm enthused by guys who throw hard, especially guys who have starter length that now can let it rip for 6 outs. And you saw that a little bit this weekend. I know Raleigh roughed him up a little bit in the ninth inning. Yes, on Saturday's game, but he looked good last night.
And the idea that he did it back to back, especially after going multiple innings on Saturday.
Yeah. So I think he's a piece. I think you've got a number of guys who have shuttled into that 5th and 6th starter role in our rotation that are going to be options for the bullpen. So I think the bullpen problems only get better, but you're going into the playoff experience is worth something. So that it's something I would have Dana Brown keeping an eye on if I were Jim Crane and involved at the baseball level, such organization at that level.
Okay, let's play true or false. True or false? Lance McCullers is only continuing to start because he cannot be optioned and he is owed too much money to just DFA.
I mean, I don't know if the money part is an issue anymore. He hadn't pitched for nearly 3 years, 2.5 years up until this season, and we were still paying him. He is a sunk cost at some point, and we have now 2 years in a row DFA'd a guy that we owed a lot of money to in Abreu and Montero. And there are, of course, many calls for Christian Walker to get the same treatment. So I don't know that Lance McCullers' money is an impetus to doing anything, especially knowing you've got a bunch falling off for next year. I just don't know what you do with the guy because he's not, denying it. He's not throwing strikes. He's not placing the ball. He can go up on every batter he faces, but he can't get them out. And that, ultimately is the difference between being a Major League Baseball player and not. And I don't know that he's not on the not side of that equation right now.
Yeah, I actually have just this image in my head of when Spaghetti and Javier are back of the front office sitting down with Lance and saying, look, this is in Lance retiring. That's actually, I think because he's actually already mentioned that there's at least been one time in this process that he's considered it already. Sure. And I can see that happening.
And if in 15 years he wants to tell Jim Crane to sign some guy that's 35 years old to a 3-year contract, that'll be his right as, an Astro Hall of Famer.
Exactly.
Because he's going to be there.
Well, yeah, and the thing about it is Lance McCullers has become the third rail of Astros fandom where you can't criticize him, and if you do, you're an asshole. And I think both things can be true. He has not only did he cement himself in Astros history for 2017, but also, he ruined his arm by essentially sucking it up and driving on for the Astros and continuing to pitch on what we all knew was going to be Tommy John surgery eventually. So it doesn't mean we're not appreciative, but the reality is it was a gamble that was taken that didn't pay off.
Yeah. And I don't know, again, I don't think he's hurt anymore. So I don't know that you can hide him on the IL. I think he's a guy that you just have on your roster until the end of the year, or at least until it becomes an issue in September where you can add another couple of players. And then once playoff rosters start getting talked about, I just don't know that he's a guy that's going to get considered for any round unless something dramatic turns around with him. Right now, we have to have somebody starting every 5th day.
Yeah,
so
but I really think
his role is protected for another couple of weeks. But beyond that, I don't know. I don't know what Dana Brown can do with him. You almost would like to see, for his sake, kind of let's see if a change of scenery would make a difference move. But I can't imagine there's another GM in baseball that would want Lance McCullers on his team, the version of him he is right now.
Yeah. It's not even the same as the Montero thing, where Montero, at least, there were the Montero issues likely between his ears, whereas McCullers, I just don't think there's anything left in his arm.
Yeah, and it's and I don't think it's lack of trying on McCullers' part. And I know our fan base tends to get mad at lack of performance, and I've been there too. It's just I think that his body has done everything it can do, and this is who he is right now. Is there an adjustment that he could be made where he's not walking 3 batters an inning? Well, okay, maybe that gets better, but there's no place for him in the rotation right now, but he's getting a turn every 5 days or 4 days because I don't know who else you throw at it right now. But that problem hopefully is going to be returned soon. Luis Garcia had a pretty decent outing in Fayetteville this weekend as well, from just a going out there throwing a baseball and getting guys out standpoint.
And just for people's edification, like, it's not like Luis Garcia has to work his way up. They're spreading these guys out so they can pitch when they want them to, instead of having to be subject to a rotational schedule. So it's not like Luis Garcia being in Fayetteville means he's somehow behind Arrighetti or Javier.
No, it starts available if you put 2 starters in Corpus Christi, and you've got most of your shuttle going in and out of Sugar Land, getting starts and staying warm there. It's kind of just, okay, well, what's the most convenient place for us to send him today? And he could be at Corpus one day. He could be at Sugar Land one day. He's also a little bit behind the other two from a conditioning standpoint. I think he was limited to 30 pitches or somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right about that.
So, as he gets a little bit better, they'll move him up closer to home in Sugar Land and Corpus. I am fascinated by Twitter fans. Astros Twitter is already criticizing his mechanics based on what they can see from the clips of the Fayetteville game.
Well, which is so odd to me because, he has clearly changed his mechanics, and the Astros have been pretty open about it. But I think we talked about it. I think his mechanics were so funky before that's probably part to why he put so much torque on his ligament that led to the injury in the first place, and then maybe would have led to the setbacks. Like, clearly something was happening that kept giving him a setback, that probably something different had to be done. And I trust the Astros pitching lab more than I do some guy named Dan who apparently does radio in Houston now.
Well, that's the fascinating thing to me is Astros pitching lab is something our fans will talk about like it's a real place that we put pitchers into, almost like the Hall of Justice.
Meanwhile, at the Astros pitching lab,
which exists in Cincinnati, evidently, randomly. But at that same time, Astros pitching lab might have changed Luis Garcia's arm angle or arm slot or some of his delivery mechanics. Oh, well, they don't know what the hell they're doing, and we need the guy that rocks back and forth and does things that are now illegal in baseball because of the pitch clock. It's you can't have it both ways. You either really rely on what the Astros do with their pitchers, or you think they don't know what they're talking about, but it can't be both at the same time. That's not real.
Let's talk a little bit about Hunter Brown then. Really fourth straight inefficient outing. He was able to battle through it in one of the starts that he had, but not great. I don't think he's injured. I just think, I don't know what to think.
His mechanics are off, and I really need to go back and watch the start yesterday. 4 innings, 3 runs, I think 84 pitches in those 4 innings.
First Espada made the right choice. I think Espada made the right choice moving him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure he didn't want to, knowing that, McCullers gave them less than 3 innings the day before. You've got Fromber tonight, so that should give you a little bit.
Fromber's tomorrow. They
gross. Why?
Okay, I'll tell you why. Is they had flipped the rotation and spread it out because Brown usually gets 6 or 7. So the idea was to actually spare the bullpen inadvertently because Brown only went 4. You could very well tax the bullpen. And Arizona's coming in hot. So I don't know. I mean, it could be a little more fits and starts tonight for the team.
Yeah, Arizona's a good team too. They're playing really good baseball. I know they just got to 500 again, which in a lot of people's world had them being sellers at the trade deadline. They probably still are because I think they're so far back in the NL picture.
That's what makes them sellers. It's not their 500. It's that their division is really good.
Yeah, but up until a week ago, they were staring on the wrong side of that 500 number.
Yeah,
they've played much better.
I think they're a good team, honestly.
Yeah, and Eugenio Suarez is on fire. I wouldn't mind if there's some long-term issue for Paredes. I'm meaning this season more than a couple weeks. The Astros knocking on that door a little bit and seeing if that's something that could be worked out, because that might solve some problems. But this is not the easy part of the schedule. Arizona's playing well, and we're going on the road, and we haven't played. We're staying on the road. We haven't played well on the road this year, not as well as we have in past years.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because we've been much better at home.
The schedule is going to ease up a little bit after that. I don't think we get to fix Hunter Brown, though, until probably August 1st, because we'll be in Boston at that point, and then Alex Bregman can tell him what he's doing wrong.
You think Alex can save us? Can buy a few minutes?
As I recall, last year he was the one who fixed the whole pitching staff.
Apparently, yeah. You would have thought that we would have.
If it doesn't take the first weekend of August, we have the Red Sox at home on the 11th. So
yeah, on the 11th.
Sometime in the next 2 weeks, Brown will get fixed.
I'm not terribly worried about Hunter Brown. I don't think he's banged up. I just think, like you said, he might be a little bit off and just kind of working through it right now. People do. It happens.
I mean, in the course of a season, that is what generally separates the Cy Young level pitchers from the rest of the pack, is the ability to be consistent over a course of a 162 game season. Brown has all the tools in the world. Pitch efficiency has always been an issue for him. But he'll get back there. I mean, what choice do we have for him not to?
Yeah.
But again, if he's not hurt, I think it's mechanics. I think it's something they will pick up. The first 2 innings looked very good for him. The third inning, he gave up hits that had he got baseballed a little bit.
He gave up 2 hits that had a combined exit velocity of 140 miles an hour.
Yeah,
like that's just gonna piss you off. Well, and I do think sometimes where he is at, Andy, is then that happens to him, or he can't quite put a guy away, and then he gets frustrated. And then I think that's part of it for him right now.
Yeah, and I imagine it is frustrating when just 3 weeks ago you were able to put a pitch anywhere you wanted it, and right now that's just not happening. Coming out of his hand, it still doesn't look like he knows where his fastball's going most of the time when he's throwing it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think he will get it figured out. I think Joe made a prudent move to, well, clearly a prudent move. The Astros ended up winning the game. The real easy thing to complain about for Astros fans is the lineup, and they'll complain about the lineup. Well, the lineup scored 11 runs yesterday and 5 runs in 9 innings the night before. And I would like to point out that not only did the 11 runs yesterday were 11 runs, but 5 of them against Brian Wu, who is a Cy Young candidate. The lineup, when it's even as poorly constructed as it is, with how banged up it is, if it can get to passing the torch, it's capable of putting up runs.
Yeah, and it is stopgap, and you're going to have things like have happened in the last 2 weeks where we just haven't been able to score runs in some games. I think what you've missed, especially now with Paredes being out and Walker still continuing to scuffle, is this idea that this is going to be a lineup that sees a lot of pitches, because those were the guys who were supposed to be bringing that. Pena really fell into that a lot this year.
All of a sudden, Altuve is as well. He's seeing 5 or 6 pitches in at bat, which is weird.
And I hope they continue that until we start getting guys back, which look like it might be over the next couple of weeks. So I don't think there's light at the end of the tunnel as far as a lot of these injuries and position players go. But until you get there, you're going to have games like you got from Trammell yesterday. The moments that we've gotten from Cooper Hummel, which have been far and few in between, but they've been significant when he's had them. And just somehow have competitive at bats. What they can't do is what they did yesterday. Have your pitcher struggle, giving up a lot of hits, get really tired, worn out in an inning, and then take 3 outs on 5 pitches.
5 pitches. Yeah. And
that's where the approach bothers me.
For guys like Cooper Hummel, just like, there's nothing worse to me than seeing somebody like that come up with a runner on first and nobody out, because you just know it's going to end up being a double play. Like, it's 50-50. certainly just stand there, man, and work a pitch count and then lay one down for fuck's sake. I don't know.
I didn't feel this about Hummel yesterday, but it's probably I've definitely felt it about other guys. The best thing you could do for us right now is just strike out. I don't need you to try to make contact.
Yeah. I'm not.
Do not get the ball to the shortstop, please.
No one's here to see you make contact, buddy. I don't mean to be rude, but that's the case. I think a pretty not rosy. I try not to be overly dramatic about reacting to injuries. Paredes has looked bad. At first, I thought it was like a cramp because of how quickly it came on. It looked bad to me. At least the benefit, though, is it's not the hamstring that had been bothering him before.
So now he has 2 bad hamstrings. That's the good news here.
I think what he said through his interpreter. Although now that they've started putting on they started putting closed captioning, and sometimes the answer we're getting back from the interpreter and what the closed captioning said the answer was supposed to be, I don't know. I think there's
one of those people, one of those individuals is a professional. The other one is Google Translate. So
okay, fair. No, he did say the other hamstring was fine. I just I prefer it being something new as opposed to a re-injury that might leave you out longer. But I don't know. I mean, part of me's concerned.
It all depends. I guess they're going to, for some reason, wait to do the MRI today, which I know that our fans don't like Seattle. I know you specifically don't like Seattle. They do have hospitals there. I think there was
they do. It's where people get the free heroin.
But there's also a documentary about it. Phrase or whatever. That's not really a program anymore. Anyway, I would bet even whatever animosity exists. Are you happy with yourself on that one?
I'm very delighted with the fact that, and maybe it's not where they get the free heroin, but it's certainly where they get the free needles for the free heroin.
It's the methadone. The methadone they get to get off the heroin.
I think they've now just up the Pacific Northwest. I know in Portland, they've just sort of decriminalized all of it.
That just means you don't go to prison. That doesn't mean it's legal. They fine you. I keep
thinking about how all these right-wing nut jobs keep getting elected, and then I read shit like that, and I'm like, oh, that's how. Okay, fair. Anyway, sorry.
My point was, before the derailing, is I am nearly positive that Seattle proper has at least one MRI machine that you could have got him looked at yesterday.
They could have gone to see JD and Turk. They have a Sacred Heart, I'm sure, has the
Gray Institute for Higher Learning or whatever that show has turned that hospital into now. Again, I don't know why we're waiting to find out. Well, we've got to wait for the inflammation. There has got to be some way that other teams are able to diagnose these things. I can't remember which team it was, but there's some guy that had a hamate bone injury very recently.
Oh, yeah.
From 6 days to diagnosis to surgery. We can't even get a guy on the IL in 6 days. We let him hang around the lineup for a few weeks before. But let's retroactively back to August of 22. It boggles my mind, and I know there are reasons that I don't get privy to, but they've lost all benefit of the doubt with me on how they're handling the communication around.
That's what has me so concerned. And the same thing with Jake is they didn't even try to sugarcoat it. They didn't even like that. Like Paredes was on the IL by the end of the night. Like that's the thing. That's why I'm concerned, not because of anything they said, because you're right. They are idiots when it comes to this at best, liars at worst. But the very fact that they're not even trying to pretend like it might be okay, to me, is the concern. It's still reading tea leaves. It's just.
Yeah. And my only hope there is that somebody woke up and said, maybe we just stop saying anything until we know what's going on, because that's what's gotten them in trouble a few times this year. Certainly what got them in trouble last year with Kyle Tucker and a couple of other injuries. And trouble is relative. It's public perception, but their fan base thinks they're idiots. And I think that is a problem, because at some point, all that talk becomes reality, even though it's not real. And I would hate us to get to the point where we literally can't sign a free agent because they don't know how to take care of their guys.
Yeah.
And, the fan base thinks that true. I don't know how long it's going to be before the agent community starts thinking that's true.
That's the thing. And we've talked about this before. All of the things people thought were going to affect the Astros getting free agents, this is actually something that could. If you're not going to be able to keep me on the field and therefore keep me, take basically money out of my mouth, then why do come here?
I mean, I could go play for the Rangers and have no pressure to ever win anything and just make a lot of money.
That's true. I do wonder. So I've been my dentist has become internet famous over the last 36 hours because
was he dating the head of his nursing staff?
No,
at a Coldplay concert?
We're sitting there. We are. First of all, he's doing my my exam, and he starts feeling around. He goes, "Let me know on a scale of 1 to Jordan's hand how bad this hurts." So already I'm like, okay. And then he makes a joke about, hey, how about how good Paredes is doing? And where's Alex Bregman? He's hurt on the bench. And I'm like, yeah, well, there you go. Now, he did say, look, it was pretty funny. He's like, I know I'm not a real doctor. I'm just a dentist. But it does seem at some point, if there's nothing structurally wrong, you just take a Tylenol and move on. I mean, like, what's going on with Jordan's hand, I guess is at least in your estimation.
Have we heard anything since Friday? Because Friday he was swinging a bat. So evidently Thursday's evaluation with yet another hand specialist went well. So my understanding is there's no damage. He has been his version of pain-free, and I think Jordan Alvarez lives with a little bit of pain just as part of who he is. They just can't control all that power in that body somehow. And I guess since Saturday morning, we haven't heard anything. So,
but again, benefit of the doubt.
In a normal world, I'd say that's probably good because we haven't heard anything. In this version of Astros fandom, I have no idea what that means. So I assume he's probably dying.
Or dead.
He might be dead.
Maybe what
we might have a whole weekend at Bernie's thing.
Look, I know we're getting close to October.
Could you do Weekend at Bernie's and Angels in the Outfield together?
No, I was thinking we call we call Guillermo del Toro, who just did a new version of Frankenstein, and we piece Jordan and Jeremy Pena together, and ipso facto, there you go.
I think Pena's coming back this week. That's my prediction by Friday. By the time we get home, we get Pena.
This is the thing, man, and it's so funny because I think some people love the fact that we have kind of a commentary that's also on Astros Twitter, but and some people don't. But I do think it's probably the thing that we do that's the most unique of all of these things. Like our friends H-Town Wheelhouse, that guy does a show every day. I don't know how he does it. He does a show every day. And usually it's pretty compelling what you're watching. At least he does a pretty good job breaking things down. I'm not interested in that. I'm really interested in the social commentary that goes with being a baseball fan. And I just don't, the thing that frustrated me the most, and I can tell when it's frustrating you because you're not there. Like I'm on Twitter by myself going, I'm even like tagging you going, please like jump in here. I need a little help. Nothing, crickets. But how is it that the Astros can go play 12 games and be world beaters and the fan base is so high and then have a struggle, the fan base is so low and think there's no coming back despite the fact that there is help coming. And I don't think that Jim Crane and Dana Brown, I'm going to conflate the two, are going to let this opportunity with this pitching staff go by without at least making a run at a World Series.
Well, there's so many weird competing narratives about the Astros. Outside they're still cheaters, even though we've done shows about why that's not a real issue, and it's certainly not an issue in 2025. But internally to our fan base, it's this weird dichotomy of performance expectations versus Jim Crane is cheap versus having the fourth highest payroll in baseball versus having contracts that have tied things up, but we can't ever sign guys to contracts to we can't develop players, but we constantly bring up players who have a good moment, and then we fall in love
Or
with those
my
players.
favorite is no one's going to want to trade with us because there's nothing in the farm system, even though every year they say that and every year there are trades.
Every year, literally every year. We have added some player every year since 2015.
Yeah. And most of them have been, I mean, major slam dunks. Like most of them have been major impact pieces, like that have caused the sports world to look and be like, how are they doing it down there?
But I think and maybe that's the issue. The last, what I would consider major deal the Astros were involved in was getting Greinke from the Diamondbacks, and that was 19. Because it has been smaller deals, but there have been smaller deals that allow you to win baseball games.
Yeah. Right. The 22 team didn't really need a whole lot. And so able to get a backup catcher and a backup first baseman was a luxury that ended up paying off and winning the World Series.
Absolutely.
Both of those guys had major impact on the World Series.
100%. But those weren't major deals. And I don't know that we're in the world for major deals right now without giving up something that I don't
How
think.
about this, Andy? Do major deals happen in a world with an expanded playoffs where now any team with a major player, that major player is usually keeping them close enough to playoff bubble to not make them worth dealing?
Well, and that's competitive balance, I guess. You expand the playoff, the ability to make the playoffs, you're going to have more teams who feel like they're in it. So there's going to be less activity. And the activity is not going to be as major as maybe it has been in years past. But I also think I think more playoff baseball is good. So you're never going to get me to agree.
Yeah.
And I know you're not trying to, but you're never going to get me to agree that putting fewer teams forward in the playoffs is a good idea. You've got more markets who are more interested in baseball because their teams have something to shoot for. Their teams have something to play for. And even if that is just being that last wild card spot, that's as good as it. That's the Detroit Tigers last year.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the Pirates and the Rockies maybe, and a couple of other organizations, Marlins, whose owners do not care about winning and will not ever care about winning. And so it doesn't matter anymore. But that's not the Astros position. I think that's the other weird thing that I see on Astros Twitter. Oh, they don't care about winning. They're not trying. Some guy, I think Tim was dealing with yesterday, is convinced the injuries are all fake. The Astros are faking their injuries somehow for reasons.
Why?
He can't just the reasons.
Yeah, come on. If you don't see it, you're an idiot.
Yes,
that's the reaction.
And
well,
so,
look,
yeah, when we're in the middle of winning only 2 of 9 games, I do tend to check out of the social media because it is just garbage on top of garbage.
Yeah, I have gone back on my promise to myself of not, like, I ended up taking Twitter off my phone again Saturday night because I was getting so mad, not at the losses or anything, but at the reaction to it. Tonight, the Astros do have Colton Gordon going against Zach Gallen. Neither pitcher's had a great year so far. Colton Gordon's actually been pretty good his last 4 or 5 starts. So maybe we'll get a Christian Walker reunion game coming. I do think with Christian Walker, I know I said this a bunch of times, but Christian Walker does at least feel like he's starting to come out of it.
We've been saying that for a while. Hey, Christian Walker is who he is right now. And at this point, I just need him to field the ball and occasionally get a hit. And that's right. What he did this weekend. The idea that he's going to be this major power producer in the middle of the lineup, I think nobody's buying on that anymore. But again, the Astros roster being what it is, why is he batting cleanup again? Because who else are you going to put there? Seriously. We've got 5 guys on the IL that were in our starting lineup this year.
Everybody's favorite Astros back, though, Andy. The savior is back.
I saw. I guess it was on Astros.
John Singleton.
Yeah, I know. I guess it was on Astros.com, but it's someplace that I scrolled through this morning and didn't read the article. And John Singleton's role. Oh, okay. Is this a whole article?
No, you know what? The like honest now. Look, there is a world where I think the lineup ought to be Carantini at catcher and John Singleton at DH for now, because I don't know how much longer I can physically watch Yanni or Diaz take at bats, because I know he's having kind of the same struggling year of Christian Walker, but Christian Walker has somehow been a little bit more consistent and still plays a Gold Glove level first base. I don't know what Yanni Urduez is doing behind the plate. I don't know what he's doing calling pitches, and I don't know what he's doing at the plate.
No, and I think I told you yesterday or one of the last times we chatted, but my hot take right now on the Astros lineup is I would sell as high as I could on Yanni Diaz right now, because I just don't think the switch is going to flip. And I can be wrong about this, and he can be an all-star in 2 years and fantastic. I'll eat that gladly. But if you could get a left-handed outfielder or a left-handed second baseman who could add a little bit of pop to the lineup and sacrifice Diaz, I'm very happy going into the playoffs with the Carantini Salazar battery or catcher position. That would be fine for me. And I think you're going to get more consistent offense with a more consistent playing time from Carantini than you're getting from Diaz this year.
Carantini was on base. He got on base, I think, 7 times the last 2 games. He's had 2 really good games in a row against a really good pitching staff.
Yeah.
And we've been saying that about Carantini since last year, though. The more opportunity that guy gets, he just plays better.
I would, I know we're all clamoring to re-sign the obvious players, but he's a guy that I'd throw another 2 or 3 year contract at without blinking, because I think he's valuable. He's a valuable part of the team. He's one of those guys that nobody wants to give Dana Brown credit for signing, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. Giving credit is due. We're going to move off baseball as we wrap things up. Again, Astros tonight versus Arizona. I still see the Astros winning the series. I don't know if tonight is that win. Zach Gallen not had a great year, but still is a really good pitcher. It can be one. I could see him being fixed by the old Astros pitching lab. Maybe they should just bring him home with them. We got a seat on the charter for you.
The one player I really want off the D-backs roster we're never going to get. So that's, Gallen might be a acceptable substitute.
An acceptable substitute. Andy, how in the world – look, so for the people that are watching out there and people watching later on, is they probably are not fully aware of the fact that I am a long time what I would call failed independent filmmaker. I have been in the indie film business for 20-something years. I've produced 15 independent feature films, some of which have done great. But let's be honest, I'm not rich. So when I see something like the script for I Know What You Did Last Summer's remake come out and be put on a big screen, why do I even bother trying? Because, oh my God, that was one of the worst film scripts I've seen in the last 10 years.
Well, I think that you have this whole professional integrity thing, so that's always going to get in your way.
That's probably actually a little – well, it's not even a little true. It's true. But that's
yeah, so we've said on this show in the past, Jim is probably a little bit more critical of movies than I am, because I will find something that I can like on just about anything.
And I'm actually more critical than most film people, because I'm kind of the same way.
I was 15 minutes into the film before I started live tweeting Jim or live texting Jim about all the ridiculous things as they were happening in the film. It was like they tried to – it certainly tried to reboot a franchise, but trying to reboot a franchise by mixing it with a more successful franchise, but not successfully there's things I could say, because I guess people are going to go watch it at some point. You don't want to be spoiled, but it's not like it's anything that's exactly going to shock you, because it's so original in its take on how they got to where they get to. The acting was bad. The writing was bad. I guess the filmography was okay. The cinematography part.
I mean, it was fine. Like, it was in focus. Yeah, the thing that kind of the thing that will – a couple of things really bugged me. One, the opening of the premise of how they ended up in the whole getting stalked a year later actually is not illegal and was not even a clear moral issue. Like, nothing would have bad happened if they just would have gone to the cops. It isn't like –
well,
especially for being rich white people. They'd have been fine.
I don't want to pull up the text, but I think I reiterated the same thing. One of the kids screams manslaughter, so they all freak out. Kid who screamed manslaughter isn't a lawyer, probably doesn't have any more, it didn't have any more knowledge than whatever he saw on SVU growing up.
Just for let people, the way it happens, I don't even give a shit about spoiling, is that they're simply standing in a road called Dead Man's Curve. So already it's dangerous. And a car comes speeding around the corner, and the guy's in the road, and the guy swerves to hit the guy, and the car basically almost drives off a cliff, and ends up falling, and they end up dying. That's the moment. It isn't like they accidentally killed anybody. It isn't even like the straight-to-video third movie in which they pretend to be committing a murder, and one of the guys accidentally dies in the gag, and so they cover the gag up. All of those are actual real reasons you might have faced some degree of legal trouble. This wasn't one of them. And so, yeah. The other thing is it mixed its tone. It didn't know if it wanted to be Scream. Did it want it to be serious? Did it want it to be Scary Movie the parody? And it wanted a lot of things that the franchise itself never earned. What it wanted when Jennifer Love Hewitt shows up was the same thing we felt when we saw Neve Campbell in Scream 5. But Neve Campbell had earned that from being in 4 previously very good Scream movies. No one's ever thought I Know What You Did Last Summer was a seminal moment in horror. I like the movie, but I don't think it's the same as again, Scream fine. It's fine. It's fine, passable summer entertainment.
The cameos or the Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze Jr., and then I guess I'm not spoiling anything because people know, but Sarah Michelle Gellar shows up in a dream sequence that has nothing to do with anything because there's been no indication that anybody has dream sequences or that they care about dreams up until the point that happens. It was just a way for Freddie Prinze Jr.'s wife to get some screen time.
And Andy, don't forget that the person who had the dream had no idea who the person was.
Yes.
Because there was a character who did know who that person was in the movie, but that's not the character who had the dream.
Well, she had to die because she was a lesbian. So
that's right.
I need to point out to you that
an angry lesbian.
Horror films being morality plays, marijuana, alcohol, and perversion all killed somebody.
So they thought this should have been a movie. They thought, you know what John Carpenter really didn't nail? The whole sins are why you get killed in the first Halloween 40 years ago. Let's do it again. That's what they did.
Yeah. I had the worst line for the whole thing for me was there is a character called Teddy. Teddy lasts actually pretty long through the film for what I was expecting because it's a meathead. But his line, and my favorite line for the whole movie was, hitting the gym so I'm ready for this motherfucker because muscles stop hooks.
Exactly. Oh, well. Don't see the movie, folks. Shark Week is on. Stay at home, watch that.
Mystery Science Theater was still a thing, like really a thing. This is a movie that's going to show up on it.
It almost happened at the Alamo Drafthouse Slaughter Lane on opening night because I had some point had lost all tolerance with the movie. And so I started just whispering jokes to Jessica and she was getting so mad because she thought we were going to get kicked out of the theater.
Does Alamo still do that now that Sony owns them?
Kick people out or Mystery Science Theater or Master Pancake, whatever they call it?
No, the kicking people out thing.
Yeah, they still do. They still do. Or at least they still threaten to do it. So
they have a thing closest to me is a Regal Theater. Yeah, Regal Theaters. And they have a VIP section. And you're paying practically double the ticket price, but you get free popcorn and soda. Great. But what you are getting is people are not willing to pay $30, $32 to get their 5-year-old in to see a horror movie.
Nice.
So you're not dealing with small children. And small children have their place, and small children at movies are great. I don't necessarily at 53 want to. If you want to go see the latest Pixar movie with your kids, that's fine. I
still get irritated at kids at those movies.
But again, this is why you have something like Alamo, where it's just a little bit nicer and people don't want to take their kids to deal with that experience because their kids aren't going to shut up or not look at their device and they'll end up getting kicked out.
That's true.
So I'm similar. I'm willing to pay a little bit more for my movie ticket, justify it with the free popcorn, but knowing rarely am I going to have to watch Superman next to a 3-year-old, because nobody wanted to pay $30 for that 3-year-old to see Superman.
That's fact, and that's a good place to leave it. This has been Off Day with Ballpark Nation. I'm Jim Christopher. That's Andy Tom Chesson. We will see you next week, where the Astros will still be in first place. All you angry Twitter fans who do not believe.
You got the touch. You got the power.